Hey witches, welcome back to my channel, Over the Hedge with the Wyld Witch. If you are new to my channel, then thank you so much for subscribing. If you want to stay up to date on what's going on here at the channel, then make sure you hit that little notification bell. So, if you read the title for this video, then you are aware that this is the second part of my series, Getting to Know Me. And the question that I'm going to answer is how I got started in witchcraft. So for me, I got started in witchcraft from herbs, honestly. But you know, it really goes back even further, like to my childhood. So I'm going to start there. So as a kid, I always believed in fairies. I believed in paranormal, and I believed in tree spirits, so just all the supernatural I believed in. I used to go to the woods back behind our house and in the field that was behind our house, and I would talk to fairies and the tree spirits, and I would write the fairies notes, and I would write, you know, books about fairies and just all kinds of stuff like that. I would make potions with the plants that I would find, you know, in the woods. And I used to steal my mom's and my grandmother and my aunt's flowers to go in these potions as well. So I grew up in the country, like way out in the country, but we lived like at the top of the hill. My grandparents lived at the bottom of the hill. Across the road I had an aunt, and then on the other side of my grandmother's house was another aunt. Then if you went down our dirt road and turned to the right, I had another aunt there. So it was all family that lived in this little section. So I used to just steal all of their flowers, you know, to make potions and to leave for the trees and for fairies. And I always believed in fairies. You could not tell me that fairies did not exist. I believed in magic. And again, you could not tell me that magic was not real. I believe that there were so many different things out here in this world. I believe there were other beings in the universe and even in the oceans. And I often got picked on by my cousins and my siblings for believing in a lot of the stuff that I did believe in. So growing up, I pretty much kept it to myself as far as, you know, friends. Outside of, you know, just family, I didn't really talk about fairies or magic or anything like that because, like I said, my cousins and siblings always picked on me. But I always believed. I never, you know, quit believing. And an interesting fact, my real name actually means fairy. So I think that's pretty cool. But I even thought, this is going to be crazy, but I even thought that maybe I was half fairy, or like I had ancestors that were fairies. But you know, like I said, I kept believing in fairies as I grew older. So fast forward several years, I had moved away from home. I moved to another state, and I continued to believe in, you know, all of this stuff. It never stopped with me. And when I moved to this other state, I discovered metaphysical stores. Like, we had no metaphysical stores anywhere, you know, where I grew up. I'm sure you're all aware, I've mentioned before, you know, I grew up in a very small southern town. It was very religious. And so anything, you know, that I was interested in like that was considered taboo, or it was evil. So, you know, we didn't have any metaphysical shops. You didn't talk about witchcraft or anything like that. So I as a kid, I really didn't know that much about witchcraft. I just thought, you know, witchcraft, that was like evil, I guess you could say, you know, like the devil's whores or something, you know. Like I said, we grew up very religious. So I didn't really associate what I believed in and what I thought with witches. Now, when I did get a little bit older, I did have one friend that lived not too far from my house, and he and I would often make jokes and pick and say that my mom was a witch because, like, the plants and trees and the wild animals, they all loved her, and she was so intuitive, and everybody went to her for their problems. She was very nurturing. but that's as far as it went. So back to, me moving away, I discovered metaphysical stores and I was in love. I just could not get enough of these shops. I started buying tons of fairies, and I even bought witchy type things. I can remember buying tarot cards and oracle decks, and I had no idea what these were or what you even used them for, but I just knew that I had to have them. And sometimes when we would go hiking in the mountains, I would take these cards with me. I bought crystal necklaces and crystal rings, and I always wore those when I went out in nature. And every weekend we would go out in nature to the mountains, to the Blue Ridge Mountains, and hike. And this was my sacred space. The older I got, the more I connected with nature. Now, like I said, I grew up, playing in the woods, and we always were in the woods. But as I got older, I started respecting nature more and connecting with nature. I could feel myself physically ground when I would go in nature. I could feel this energy shift, and it was the most wonderful feeling to experience that. And it really made me believe in magic even more so. Now, I still was not into witchcraft. I would read some of the books when I would go into these metaphysical shops about, witchcraft, and I was so drawn to them. And I would want to purchase them so bad, but I always would feel guilty, and my guilt would just eat at me to where I wouldn't do it. So I guess it was before my son was born, so before I got pregnant, my husband had picked up some Wiccan information, and we started looking into that. But to me, it was so much, it was like a religion to me, and I just didn't want anything, to do with it. I thought it was cool, but there was just so many rules, and I just, I really didn't pay it any mind. I'm sure the guilt was eating at me too, so I didn't do anything about it. Well, over this time, I broke my neck, and I got put on so much medication. I had so many surgeries, and it was like 10 to 12 years that I was on pain medicine. And I mean a lot of pain medicine, not just like one thing. I was on several different pain medicine. I was on muscle relaxers. I had damaged some nerves from the wreck, so I was on medication for nerve damage. I was on medication for anxiety. So, and everything was strong. It wasn't, something that was like really simple. It was stuff that was really, really strong. And over the years, I got so tired of being on this medicine. Like, I couldn't do anything. I could not function unless I took this medicine. I could not turn my head from left to right. I couldn't look up or down. Like, I had to turn my whole body when I moved. And it was really, really hard. I've always been a very active person, and I like to get down on the floor and play with my kid. I like to climb trees with him and, all this stuff, and it was so hard to do. And, by this point, my body was so addicted to this medication. And I knew that, I had to get off of it. I could not live my life like this anymore, but I didn't know how to do that. I knew that it was really dangerous to just stop, taking the medication, because, like I said, my body had grew very addicted to it. And I knew that if I stopped without any help, there was a possibility I would have a heart attack, because my body just would not be able to go through the withdrawals from the medicine. So I, was getting kind of depressed because I really wanted to get off this medicine, but I didn't know how. And my husband found this plant that he had heard many stories about. He started doing lots of research on this plant, and I thought, that it won't hurt. I can at least give it a try, and see if this will help me get off this medicine. So I did. I quit taking all the medicine right then and there. I didn't wean myself off. I just stopped. I started taking this plant, and it helped. I was able to get off the medicine, and then I was able to start meditating and doing yoga and exercising and had the ability to move my neck. So I thought, this is so wild. Like, this plant that comes from nature, it is helping me. It got me off all this medicine. It's given me, more range of motion in my neck, and that was amazing. So I thought, there's got to be something in this. Like, I need to start researching this. So I did. I started researching plant medicine and aromatherapy, and I was hooked. Anything I could get my grubby little hands on about plants and essential oils, I did. I researched through the computer. I went to the library. I purchased books, and I just dove head first in. It changed my life. So I started buying plants, and I would buy plants and I would buy essential oils, and I would try it out, and I would, research about them and see what they were all about. And I would drink, I would make a herbal tea, and I would drink it, and I would make oils with the essential oil to use, and it was great. Well, I started having these dreams, and it was always this same woman in my dreams, and she was talking to me about plant medicine and how plants can heal, and how you can communicate with plants, and how plants can talk to you. And then I found out, after I had several dreams, when all I knew, she was a lady, and I knew she was from Ireland, because when I had these dreams, it was always in Ireland. Now, I've never been to Ireland in my life, but I knew that's where we were at. So I knew this lady was Irish. Well, after, several of these dreams, it had been several weeks that I had talking to this woman, she led me down the path of herbalism, and I learned that she was a goddess. She was an Irish goddess or Celtic goddess, and I knew then that this was something that I had to do. Well, I started working with her a lot, and she introduced me to witchcraft. So she is a goddess of herbalism, and she's also a goddess of witchcraft. So I first got started I first looked at Wicca again. I pulled it back out because that was really the only thing I knew about any type of witchcraft was Wicca. So I started, this journey of Wicca, and I realized right from the get-go, probably a month or two in, that this just wasn't what I needed. This wasn't the path that I was supposed to follow. So I started to get discouraged, and I wanted to connect with this goddess again. So I did, and she showed me a book, and this book was on green witchcraft. So I started getting into green witchcraft, and I fell in love because I'm sure you can tell, I'm hippie. I've always been a hippie, and this green witchcraft was just, oh my gosh, it was for me. Well, I was doing this about 6 to 8 months, I would say, and then I found hedge witchery. Green witchcraft, I loved it, but it still felt like there was something missing from it. And when I found hedge witchcraft, oh my gosh, I knew that I had found my practice. And today, this is still the same practice. I am a hedge witch. I do not separate the mundane from the magical. I'm a hedge witch 24 hours of the day. This is where I'm supposed to be. This is my path, and I know that. And I think that I was interested in the Fae and all these different beings, and I was interested in all the magic and all. I think from a childhood that it stayed with me, and I think it led me to who I am today, and this is who I'm supposed to be. This is my purpose. And I'm so thankful that I found this path. I'm so thankful for my goddess, and she is still my goddess to this day. I still have the same one. She is my teacher. I don't, put her like way up here above me. She is my teacher. She has taught me so much about plant medicine and I have learned so much about myself as well. So I would like to know your story. Share with me what got you interested in witchcraft. If you have any questions, please leave them down below. So until next time, I hope you have a wonderful day. Peace, homies!